Welcome to another episode of Heart Revelation Confessions. Today's topic is going to be about pure heart but going through hell. In this world, there's good, there's bad. Just because some people might look good on the outside doesn't mean their spirit is pure. It's just like we get in these relationships and we say, hey, this is a nice woman, you know, she's beautiful, she keep herself together. But even though when we get with these women and we get ready to know these women, right, it's not all as what it seems. Because when you get with this woman, it is a price and sacrifice that you must pay. The price and sacrifice you must pay is, in order to keep this woman, you must give her money. You must help her keep herself up. And also, even though you might give her money to keep herself up, right? It doesn't mean that she's going to be faithful and loyal to you, because after you can't give her what she wants, she's going to move on to the next man. And what I'm trying to say to some of these women, you don't want to put yourself above all measures. You don't want to just use your beauty to get by in life, because eventually you're going to get old and you're going to lose all your beauty. So the most qualification that you can use to get a guy is by being honest, you know, being loyal, being faithful. Because you put yourself into beauty, beauty will bring vanity, and vanity will be your downfall. In life, we go through so much. We want to give up. Even though some of us are really pure, some of us are trying to do right, but you have people on the outside that still plot against us, that still wish bad on us, that still make our lives harder. But I'm here to tell you today, even though you might have God in your life, you still have to deal with these situations. You can't run. Sometimes to exit a bad situation, you just have to just stand up for yourself, speak up for yourself, and be like, no, I'm not gonna do what you tell me to do. You know what I'm saying? Because in this world, you can't survive out here being nice. Because if you out here being nice, people will see that as a weakness and they will try to manipulate you. So it's nothing wrong with helping people. but you have to walk in the spirit of discernment. Just because you out here doing good, helping people, doesn't mean that people is gonna accept you. Doesn't mean that everybody's gonna appreciate you. So basically, you have to enjoy your life. You have to live for you. And also too, what I'm saying, the good suffer with the bad, and that's true because when we are born, you know, we all born with sin, you know, we all have hunger, we all have desires, sort of like the world. Even though we believe in God, doesn't mean that we're bad people. Because if you're a person out here, you're trying to do good, and you sort of feel like that the world is passing you by, and you feel like you're not being treated fairly. You want to live life, you want to explore different things. Doesn't mean you're bad. You just want to enjoy your life. And just like in my situation and stuff, I've been through a lot of relationships, and most of these people in my relationships, you know, they just come in and they try to take from me, they try to use me, and you know, you get tired of that, you get fed up with that, and especially like when it happens over and over again, you just have to just let it go. You have to let it go. The person ain't right for you, you just have to let them go. And also too, as a man, we deal with a lot of stress. We deal with a lot of trauma, and as a man, when you deal with a lot of stuff, it is okay to take a moment when you're by yourself to just reminisce, you know, and just see a reflection of yourself, and just, you know, look at your life. Some of our lives are a good life, they're not a good life. And as we look at our life, if we keep on seeing the same bad outcome, we need to change the way we think. We need to change the way we think, and we need to just make different choices and better choices that can, edify our lives and stuff. Even though we might let go of people in our lives, we might think that we're alone. You know, you're not alone. You know, God is watching us. All of us have divine protection over us. That's the reason why when some of us feel like giving up, we just can't stay down for long. We get right back up. But as a man, if you feel like that you need to cry, to let go the weight off your shoulders, go ahead and cry. Because crying brings healing to the spirit, bring healing to the soul. You know what I'm saying? Because, out here, you don't want to be walking in not trusting people. You know what I'm saying? And by you just being angry, you know, I understand everybody's frustration. You know, while I was out here just being angry and stuff, we're gonna like just be blind, you know. We gonna, ignore the people, who can benefit us, who can help us in life. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm here to tell you today, you know, even though relationships don't work out, friendships don't work out, don't give up. Because, as you live, you become wiser, and also, you know, you begin to meet different people in your life. It just sometimes people is not meant to be in your life for a long time. And you gotta understand this too, what I'm saying? Like, we go through trials and tribulations because it only can make us stronger, and you know, we just have to just, even though we're in darkness, even though we're going through hell, the Lord is still around us. He's still protecting us. He's still encouraging. But sometimes, right, it can be very scary when you had enough and, you know, you stand against the oppressor. Because in this world, forever, we will always be ruled by our oppressors. Our oppressors control everything in this world. They control the roof over our head. They control the money in our pockets. They can control religion. You know what I'm saying? So basically, when you stand against, your oppressors, you could lose everything. You could lose everything because you're fed up of being mistreated. You're fed up being verbal abused. You just tired. But even though if you walk away from the oppressor, it might seem scary, but eventually, your life will get better. You know what I'm saying? So don't walk by fear because fear comes from the enemy. Fear is just a illusion. Sometimes, when we do stuff, we walk on faith, we gotta clear our mind. We gotta try not to stress on a difficult situation. Sometimes we gotta just step out and do it, Even if we fall, we get back up. Life is not easy. Life is rocky. Suicide and drugs is not the right way to exit stress, drama, trauma, difficult problems in your life. You must stay strong. You must face your fears. You know what I'm saying? Because, even though, you know, you might be doing all these things that you think, like drugs, suicide, you think your life will get better, your life isn't going to get better because you have to, you know, you have to pay for all your actions that you do in your body and also what you do on earth as well. Suicide is not the way. It is not the way. It is not the way. You know, like I say, don't feel sorry for yourself. Don't give up. It is opportunities out here that can help you. And like some people think just because you're poor, you're in poverty, that you go through the most trauma and stress. That's not true. Even all these people out here, they're famous, they're popular, they have a lot of money, and they still isn't happy. They're still not happy with their success. You know what I'm saying? Because all their life they had to fight. They had to prove themselves to people. And they basically, gave themselves to the world. So you can't, give yourself to the world. If you give yourself to the world, they will turn on you, and when they done with you, they will eat you up, they will spit you out, and they will replace you. So basically, serve God, serve God, don't serve the world. Don't serve the world. Don't serve the world. And, some of these workplaces, you know, treat their employees unfair, and we lose control sometimes. We want to just quit, we want to give up, but have self-control. You know, follow the rules, do what you need to do until you come up. So you won't have to work for the oppressor and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Be obedient, follow instruction. You know what I'm saying? Because in this world, we're only human. You know what I'm saying? We're only human. You know, we don't have, we really don't have the power to tell people what we're gonna do and what we're not gonna do until we get what we want to get in life. You know, and we can say screw them. I'm my own manager. I can make my own money while I'm in my sleep. I don't have to work a 9 to 5. You know what I'm saying? Like that is where I would love to get in my life. As I grow older, I don't plan on working for people all my life. When I get 70, 60, I plan on retiring. I plan on living a good life. I plan on traveling all around the world. You know what I'm saying? I plan on, meeting a good woman, what I'm saying, who will love me for me. And another thing too, right? We have all these problems, right? And we just overburdened with so much, right? But I'm gonna tell you something right here, right? Even though money is the root of all evil, money can solve problems if it's handled in the right way. And sometimes, we have money, we invest our money to wrong things, you know what I'm saying? But we also can invest our money to positive things that can benefit us and our character. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, you don't want to be miserable, you don't want to be sad all your life, you know what I'm saying? Because it's so much stuff going on in the world. You know, like it's wars, people dying all over the world, people are starving, you know what I'm saying? But sometimes I don't even look at the news. I don't look at the news, I just be in tune on the things that is going on around me. I be aware, I be alert on it, and I learn from all kind of things that is around me. Because I don't really like look at the news because it's like the news, you know, warn you about different situations, but it's like they only bring negative things to you so you can stress, so you can get worried. So basically, you know what I'm saying, it's just like social media, you know, manipulate different situations. And one thing on YouTube, in order for a person to get more views, to get more subscribers, they gotta be on a low frequency. You know, people love drama. You know, people love to see people going back and forth. You know, but even though I don't have a lot of subscribers, I appreciate. I still try to stay positive, and I appreciate everybody for supporting me. You know what I'm saying? I'm not doing this to, you know, get a YouTube check. I'm doing this because I love doing this. I love doing it. You know what I'm saying? I had a dream. I had a dream, that I'm speaking to people, that I'm encouraging people. You know what I'm saying? So it don't matter, you know, how many views, what I'm saying, my videos get. At least I have people that is watching my videos. Even though, you know, my videos is not getting a lot of support, I can't give up. I can't be frustrated. You know what I'm saying? I have to be patient. And I have to give the people a chance to soak up the information.